In a small, secluded village, nestled beside an ancient forest, lived a forester named Harold. A solitary man of few words, Harold spent his days tending to the forest, ensuring the paths were safe and the wildlife thrived. Tales of mysterious happenings in the forest had circulated for years. But Harold, who had walked its trails for decades, had never encountered anything unusual until one day. While inspecting the forest, Harold noticed something peculiar near the base of a towering oak tree. A metallic glint caught his eye, a sight completely foreign to him. Approaching cautiously, he discovered a large pipe jutting out of the ground, its surface mossy and aged. Air hissed faintly from the opening, and as Harold drew closer, he heard a sound sharp and desperate emanating from deep within. Startled, Harold called out, "Hello? Is someone there?" His voice echoed, met by silence at first. Just as he turned to leave, he heard a woman's voice, faint and filled with despair. Before he could process the shock, another pipe nearby amplified the same eerie sound. The realization dawned on him: the forest hid an underground tunnel network. Determined to uncover the mystery, Harold followed the pipe's winding path. It led him deeper into the woods until he stumbled upon a rusted door concealed in a hillside. With effort, he pried it open, revealing a dark tunnel. The air inside was damp and heavy, carrying the scent of decay. Armed with his flashlight and a sense of duty, Harold ventured in. The passageway twisted and branched, forming a labyrinth. Harold marked his way with chalk, the oppressive silence broken only by the occasional distant echo. He pressed on until he reached a large chamber filled with corroded machinery and pipes. In its center stood a cylindrical contraption, ancient and intricate, seemingly the heart of the tunnel system. As Harold examined it, the woman's voice called out again, more urgent than before. Realizing he couldn't handle this alone, Harold used his phone to call for help. To his surprise, he had cell service underground. Emergency responders promised assistance, but they were at least an hour away. Harold knew he couldn't wait. Someone needed his help now. Harold scanned the chamber, his flashlight revealing rusted pipes and shadowy corners. The voice, filled with desperation, spurred him onward. In the far corner, he discovered another concealed doorway, partially blocked by debris. With effort, he pushed through and found himself in a smaller, colder room. The scent of decay was overpowering. Graffiti marked the walls, and discarded wrappers littered the floor, but the sight of rotting animal carcasses made Harold's stomach churn. Something or someone had been surviving here, feeding on the creatures. "Help! Please help!" the voice called out, closer now. Harold quickened his pace, splashing through water pooling on the floor. A loud metallic bang echoed through the tunnels, followed by the hiss of a broken pipe releasing water at an alarming rate. Harold pressed on, determined to find the source of the voice. He reached another door, its submarine-like design puzzling him. It took all his strength to pry it open. Beyond was a series of similar doors, leading deeper into the mysterious complex. Each step brought Harold closer to the voice, now clearly a frightened plea. "Hello, I'm here. Can you hear me?" Finally, Harold entered a small room and froze. Huddled in a corner was an elderly woman, shivering and frail, her clothes tattered and dirty. "Madam, what are you doing here?" Harold asked, wrapping his coat around her trembling shoulders. The woman introduced herself as Jung Li and explained her harrowing story. She and her husband, Tao, had fled from a powerful Chinese crime syndicate years ago. Tao had seen something incriminating and became a target. To escape their relentless pursuers, the couple lived in abandoned buildings, moving frequently. But even that wasn't enough. The syndicate always found them. Eventually they discovered these tunnels and went underground, hiding in the labyrinth for years. Harold listened intently, but his heart sank when Jung revealed the reason for her distress. Earlier that day, part of the tunnel had collapsed, trapping her husband on the other side. She had tried to free him but lacked the strength. Tao was injured, and his cries for help had grown weaker. "Please," she begged Harold, "help me save him." Harold didn't hesitate. "We need to get to him," he said firmly, determination in his voice. With Jung's guidance, they navigated the winding tunnels toward the collapsed section. The air grew heavier as they approached the blockage, and faint cries for help echoed from behind the debris. Harold's heart tightened at the sound Tao was alive, but time was running out. They reached the collapse, and Harold immediately began moving rubble. Jung joined in, her desperation fueling her efforts. Piece by piece, they cleared the blockage, Harold's muscles straining under the weight of the debris. Finally, a small gap appeared, and Harold peered through, spotting Tao lying on the ground. He was covered in dust, his leg twisted at an unnatural angle, but his eyes lit up when he saw Jung. "Tao," she cried, tears streaming down her face. "Hold on, we're coming!" With renewed determination, Harold widened the opening until it was large enough to crawl through. Jung rushed to Tao's side, cradling him as Harold assessed the situation. Tao's leg was clearly broken, and his face was pale from pain and exhaustion. "I can't walk," he whispered. "Don't worry," Harold reassured him. "We'll get you out of here." Harold improvised a stretcher using materials from the tunnel, carefully placing Tao on it. Together, he and Jung carried Tao through the labyrinth, following the chalk marks Harold had made earlier. The journey back was grueling. The weight of the stretcher, combined with the cold, damp air and rising water levels, tested Harold's endurance, but the sound of sirens in the distance gave him hope. Help had arrived. As they emerged into the sunlight, Harold squinted, his eyes adjusting to the brightness. Several police cars and an ambulance were waiting at the forest's edge. Officers and paramedics rushed toward them, relief evident on their faces. "Over here," Harold called, waving them over. The paramedics quickly took Tao, loading him into the ambulance. Officers listened intently as Harold and Jung recounted their ordeal. Tao was taken to the hospital, where doctors reset his leg. But this was only the beginning of the story's resolution. While Tao received medical attention, the police grew increasingly interested in Jung's story. She explained how she and her husband had fled China to escape the clutches of a dangerous crime syndicate. Tao had witnessed something that could incriminate the syndicate, making them relentless in their pursuit. The officers quickly realized that this information could be crucial in dismantling the organization. Jung revealed that Tao had knowledge of the syndicate's base of operations. In exchange for witness protection, Tao agreed to cooperate with authorities, providing the critical details they needed. The police contacted international law enforcement, and within months, a coordinated effort led to the arrest of hundreds of syndicate members across the globe. The organization was dismantled, freeing countless victims from its grip. For Jung and Tao, this marked the beginning of a new chapter. They were placed in witness protection and eventually settled into a quiet suburban neighborhood in Baltimore. After years of living in fear, they could finally embrace a sense of normalcy. Their modest home became a symbol of hope and freedom. Despite their relocation, Jung and Tao never forgot Harold, the man who had risked his life to save them. Harold frequently visited the couple, becoming a close friend and a reminder of their harrowing journey. Over shared meals and laughter, they celebrated the simple joys of life, a stark contrast to the dark, hidden world they had once inhabited. For Harold, the experience left a lasting impression. The forest he had tended for so many years held secrets he never imagined. But it also became the backdrop for a tale of courage, resilience, and the triumph of good over evil. Harold returned to his duties, his connection to the woods deeper than ever, but now with the knowledge that even the most familiar places can hold mysteries waiting to be uncovered.